Hello and welcome to this episode of Tripology. It's the only show where the two hosts creep in tiptoeing about planet Earth with ever such speed. I'm Alan and I'm here with the ever misleading Adam.
It's one hell of a show today, mate. We've got an article in the beginning, a really fun article we're going to talk about when two worlds collide, the travel world, the real world, and the futuristic world of AI. Then in the second section of the show, we've got a Tripological Reasoning where you're going to ask me, what on earth would I do in this situation? It's completely hypothetical. And then, of course, at the end of the show, we've got everyone's favourite section, is Tales of a Trip, where we hear from one of you guys.
What an excellent summarisation of the show to come. It's all very, very exciting. An article, you say, using artificial intelligence in the travel world. Do pray tell.
I know, that is something that you're, something you've got experience in very firsthand. I remember when you were waltzing around Shanghai with ChatGPT up your arm.
Yeah, I think there's two categories of people and their relationships with AI. You've got the doomers, the people that think AI is going to take over the world and it's a terrible thing, and people who dare to have a glimmer of hope, thinking that actually AI is a useful tool and if used in moderation, it can just make life better. I think I probably sit in that camp. I think that it can be a good tool to be utilised.
Yeah, so there I was earlier today, mate, and I was thinking, I've got a chat with Alun later. What is it we can talk about? I went on the BBC website and I went to the travel section, as I like to do, because that's just sort of my afternoon reading, you know, when I'm at work and there's nothing to do. I like to read about travel. And I came across this article, beg your pardon, and it was titled "The Perils of Letting AI Plan Your Next Trip." So I'm just going to go through the article now, and it really is quite interesting. It was published earlier today, so the article starts, "An imagined town in Peru, an Eiffel Tower in Beijing. Travellers are increasingly using tools like ChatGPT for itinerary ideas and being sent to destinations that don't exist." Miguel Angel Gongora Meza, founder and director of Evolution Treks Peru, was in rural Peruvian town preparing for a trek through the Andes when he overheard a curious conversation. Two unaccompanied tourists were chatting amicably about their plans to hike alone in the mountains to the sacred canyon of Humante. He said, he said they showed me the screenshot, confidently written and full of vivid adjectives. Hello, man after your own heart. It was not true. There is no sacred canyon of Humante, said Gongora Meza. The name is a combination of two places that have no relation to the description. The tourists had paid nearly $160 in order to get to a rural road in the environs of Moyapata, which I don't know, is somewhere you've been, without a guide. And they were essentially stranded there. And what this guy goes on to say is basically the problem with this is, especially somewhere like Peru, is that if you end up somewhere you shouldn't be as a result of ChatGPT just coming up with something fanciful, it says you could find yourself at 4,000 meters altitude without oxygen and no phone signal. What do you make of that, mate?
Well, I think that the guy is rightly kind of dismissive of their use of ChatGPT. Obviously, they've not done a good job there. But I would say everyone kind of knows that ChatGPT hallucinates sometimes. Sometimes you ask it a question and it goes off on a right tangential mess of dialogue. So I think basically what they've done is the equivalent of asking a very knowledgeable friend a question and then just taken their response at absolute face value and gone on a whole adventure without Googling it first.
Actually, you make a good point, actually, because that would be my second port of call. After saying to ChatGPT, we imagine the first question was, tell me some great places to go in Peru.
Yeah.
And then the moment it sends you, it comes up with the result, surely the second thing you would do is just Google it to have a look at some pictures or go on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, isn't it?
Absolutely, certainly. I mean, I would expect you to do that to me. If I asked you for recommendations for some place that you've been to and I've not, let's say Vladivostok in Russia, if I said, Adam, what should I do in Vladivostok? And you gave me a list of 5 things, what I'm not going to do is jump on a plane and go to Vladivostok for those 5 things without first being like, okay, well, let me figure out which one of those I want to do, where to go, where to do it. I'd believe you that they exist, but I wouldn't just use you as the only reference book.
It is a really strange thing, actually, to do some of the work and maybe not the most important thing. The article then continues and says, according to a 2024 survey, 30% of those surveyed who used AI to help plan their travels reported that it could not provide enough information, while around 33% said their AI-generated recommendations included false information. So is that something you came across when you were in China? Did you get taken to a location that didn't exist?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, but I think it was just because I struggled to read the signage.
As a result of not being able to speak Mandarin.
Well, I think I think basically it said you got to go to this dumpling shop, but it used English to convey that information to me. And when I arrived at the street where the dumpling shop was supposed to be, it didn't say dumpling shop. It had a series of Chinese characters.
Well, so that we don't end up going around in circles here with AI and technology and social media and all that sort of stuff. Does AI form part of that, and is it actually hindering our experience of travel, or do you think that it exists sort of separately and it should be used or treated with a sort of different level of respect or exigent? What's it? Demands, yeah, that's it. Sorry, I said the French word.
Oh, are you dating a French person?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to speak French as much as I can, but because her English is so much better than my French, we would have quite boring conversations in the evening if we just only spoke in French. You know?
Adam's one of those people that if you're doing a bit of French, he'll do that kind of feigned thing where you confuse it. I'll be like, oh, you're right, mate. I'll go, oh, bonjour. Oh, sorry. Hello.
I just got back from France. Sorry, that's what I say in France.
Sorry. Look, I think this sort of problem's always existed to some extent. I remember when I was traveling around Africa, and I can't exactly remember where it was, but it might have been Zambia.
Nice.
Me and my then partner, we were searching for something to do, and we were Googling like one of those lists, like an aggregator of like, this is the top 10 things to do in this town, this quite small town. And in all of those lists was go and visit the little model village.
Okay.
And I was quite excited. I thought, well, I mean, look, there wasn't that much to do in this town. So we thought, let's go and check out the model village, because quite insane for a model village to make it to the top of various best thing to do aggregators. So it must be quite exceptional. Mm-hmm. Some of them really raved about this village. So we went to where the village was supposed to be, and it didn't exist.
Oh.
And like, it just wasn't there, right? And my partner was like, oh, okay, whatever, right, we moved on. But I couldn't let it go because I was like, what happened there? And I really was digging in online. Like, what is it that occurred that meant that that was just a field and not a model village, despite so many places raving about it? And it turned out that basically it was someone's did a proposal as like a university project.
Right.
Like, oh, wouldn't it be nice for like the community to build a model village? And they like presented on it and like done a video maybe where it was like the model village. And it had just been, there was so little to do in that town that university presentation got like picked up and just inserted into the algorithm about things to do in that town. It didn't exist. It never existed. Not even one model house ever was placed there. It was just a university project. So can we blame ChatGPT is what I'm saying, because human writers have been making the same mistakes for years.
Yeah, well, you're not wrong. I mean, there's this whole Instagram versus reality thing, and maybe the onus is on the Instagram, the influencers, the travel influencers to portray a side of travel or a location that is maybe more realistic. I don't know where you draw the line, because from a certain angle, isn't AI only kind of doing what us lot do anyway? Because the top 10 things to do in any city, I rarely agree with those lists, by the way. I mean, they're quite generic. If they get up to the top few entries on Google, they're normally there or thereabouts the same. You kind of have to scroll down a little bit further to get to a list that's written by someone who's more similar to us.
Yeah, you usually have to type in something like, oh, backpacking Zambia on a shoestring budget.
Yeah, I mean, hidden gems now has just become completely redundant. I don't think a hidden gem exists, because if you're typing into Google, hidden gems, Budapest or whatever,
Yeah.
Every single person and their dog who's ever been to Budapest has probably found that same list, because once you
Just get a jewellery shop.
once it becomes the default to type in hidden gems, you know, it's just going to be so ubiquitous and overrun with tourists. And as we learned on the last week's episode, if there's one thing I don't like about travel, it's other tourists.
Yeah, I think hidden gems is a funny one, because if you were going to write the actual hidden gems, you wouldn't get many hits on Google, I think, because we're living in this gamified system where you've got to like say the right things in order to get ranked on a search engine. If I was going to do a hidden gems thing about Siargao, where I'm currently living, I would say like, oh, there's this moody little beach sort of 30 minutes away from town. You can go and sit there and watch crabs if you want. Well, that's my hidden gem, but that ain't, no one's typing that in, so no one's ever going to discover it.
Yeah. The location to the apartment you're in, you say, when you're in the kitchen, you can smash the window frame out. That's a hidden gem.
Yeah, if you need to break in, it's a hidden gem. You can take whatever you like.
No, but, you know, we digress. I mean, AI, it's getting its claws into travel. It hasn't affected us just yet. If anything, it's benefited the show. But I don't know. I won't be asking ChatGPT to curate an itinerary for me without sort of doing my double and triple checking.
I think that's our message for the listening audience. If you are going to use ChatGPT to plan your travels, and I do recommend you give him a little ping, ask him a few questions, always double check on Google first, else you may end up going to a model village that doesn't really exist. Now though, Adam, it's time for me to ask you some hypothetical questions, because I've got something on my mind that I want to know what you would do if it happened to you. Hypothetically, it's Tripological Reasoning. Tripological Reasoning.
Tripological Reasoning, driving me insane.
Oh, what would you do? Tripological Reasoning, Adam. Hypothetical backpacking questions. It's sort of backpacker training ground where I ask you things just to see what you would do, see if you're a good backpacker. But this week I have a few questions. I just want to know, just kind of quick fire, what is it that you would do if these things happen to you? Let's say you're living somewhere on the road.
Like a bus stop.
Yes. Or perhaps a tent in a ditch. Let's say you're on the road, you're living somewhere, and the place you're staying has a range of amenities.
Right.
And one of the amenities that you use regularly, let's say sort of a coffee pot.
Right.
You were walking from the kitchen area to where your cup is on a table, and you dropped it and it smashed into proverbial smithereens all over the ground, shards of glass everywhere. What would you do basically? Would you contact your landlord and tell them that you smashed the coffee pot, or would you try and replace it without them knowing, or what would you do?
So the coffee pot comes with the apartment, does it? It's sort of, I didn't bring it there. I didn't buy it myself.
This imaginary apartment, yeah.
Yeah, in this imaginary apartment. First port of call, I'd be pretty frustrated, actually. I hate breaking things. It happens almost never, very rarely. And, I work with a lot of glass, as you can imagine, working in the wine industry. So I'm always polishing hundreds of glasses a day, very rarely break one. So this already would be very strange for me to drop a glass coffee pot.
Yeah.
But I would be beside myself. I'd sweep it all up for sure. I'd regret all the coffee that I was wasting. And I think I would probably leave it a very long time before notifying the landlord.
Hoping that what would happen in the interim period?
Well, maybe that I wouldn't see them, probably. I think...
Ever? You just go without telling them?
No, I'd replace it for sure. I'd try and replace it if I could.
Yeah.
But, yeah, in all honesty, I mean, things not exactly like that. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I know in that situation, it would be one of those things that was in the back of my mind thinking, I've got to do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
I've got to maybe address that next week. And before you know it, it's 2 months. And then the person approaches you and says, where the fuck's the coffee pot? And you go,
Yeah, I can empathise with that, yeah. That's interesting. Okay, so you'd basically go as long as you could. Okay, well, that's interesting. And another hypothetical travel backpacking scenario. If you were on the road, staying somewhere, for example, and there was a bunch of amenities provided, and one of them was a safe, and you were about to put something in the safe, and the handle of the safe door just came completely off in your hand into pieces, so that the safe no longer worked.
Yeah, it sounds quite unsafe.
Yeah, what would you do? Because you can't replace a safe, obviously. But
Yeah. So, well, hang on. In this situation, it is the safe. The safe is now open.
well, it's hypothetical the situation, but I imagine the safe would be open and unable to close. Yeah.
So it's redundant. It's completely redundant. It now no longer operates as a safe at all.
Yeah. The handle's just broken.
Okay, the landlord's getting a call about that one, I think.
Okay, because you don't think that's your fault, because obviously you were just trying to use the safe as intended and it opened.
Yeah. I think that's a faulty piece of equipment.
Does it make it more awkward to do the coffee call and the safe call in one go? Like, let's say you were moving out soon or something, and would you just do them both at the same time, or?
But you could roll it into one, because if both those things happened completely hypothetically,
Yeah.
then what you could do is, if you did need to make a call and it was around the time you were leaving said hypothetical apartment, maybe you could say that you smashed the coffee pot as a result of the handle coming off of the safe.
Yeah, or you could move it into the conversation. You could be like, oh yeah, and the glass went everywhere. It was really unsafe. Speaking of which, the handle. I like it. Good ideas, mate.
I think that's probably what I would do. The handle coming off of the safe feels less, you had less control over that. I think that's a faulty piece of equipment. I think that's something that's imperative to the Airbnb or the apartment itself. I think not having a safe immediately means that there's like a change in the offering.
Oh, really? I would have thought of the safe as quite redundant, because there's obviously a lock on the door of the house. But
Which you know all too well, because you've been locked out multiple times. The listener won't know this, but we had to cancel last week's recording because you locked yourself out of your own apartment.
Yeah, stuff like that does keep on happening. Anyway, one more hypothetical situation. If you were sort of on the road, you were traveling, and maybe you were staying somewhere with some amenities that were provided, and one of them was a water pump, which was actually purchased new for you, and sort of like it gets put on top of a big water jug, and it pumps the water out so you can have clean drinking water and all that sort of stuff. And then one day, it just stopped working, and whenever you push the button, it just made a sort of whirring noise, but it sputtered out, and it just wasn't working anymore. What would you do in that situation?
This is happening in complete isolation of the other two events that are...
Well, let's just hypothetically say that they were all happening together at once.
I think the water pump seems like should be the most important, but I care about it the least. Maybe I would try, and you know better than anyone how bad I am at A, taking the initiative to solve anything, and B, then actually being able to solve it myself. I'd sooner ask you for help or anyone else that's passing by. But I would probably try and... There's usually a lid on those things, isn't there? I can imagine the water tank you're talking about. Does it have sort of a spout? And when you compress the lid, it goes quite slowly, like one of those slow closing kitchen cupboards.
No, in this hypothetical scenario, it's very much an electronic pump that is very difficult to analyze just from looking at it. It seems like it's completely one sealed unit, basically.
Oh dear. And hypothetically quite expensive.
I mean, that would be my concern if I was you answering this hypothetical question.
Okay. Well, I'm getting a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of hypothetical things that are going wrong. I think
it's interesting that you feel overwhelmed, because I feel great.
That's a long list of things that are hypothetically going wrong in this altogether.
Yeah. I think one of the problems is if you were to report it, it kind of seems like a bit of a piss take, doesn't it, to do it all at once? So then you might try and stagger it out over a period of weeks, but then realize that you may not have weeks to go. So you would change your plans to potentially stay in this place longer just so you can stagger the various broken things.
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
How long has it been since these things have broken in the situation I'm in, the hypothetical situation that I'm in? Are these all, am I addressing this as it's happened in the moment?
I like to imagine I've given you them in chronological order, starting about 2 weeks ago.
I think that I would feel more and more guilty the more times I interacted with my landlord is what I think. The moment you have an opportunity to address something and speak to someone about something. And this goes for, this can be extended into not just any other hypothetical situation, but maybe even real life situations. When you have something to tell someone and you interact with them regularly and choose to avoid it, obviously that's what snowballs.
Yeah. But obviously this landlord, she wouldn't know that they've happened a long time ago. She wouldn't be like, but I was there the other day. Why didn't you say anything? Because she wouldn't know when it had happened. And that...
She's not going to come in like a forensic detective and start running her finger along the floor, smelling it and going, hang on a minute, that's 4-week-old coffee.
Yeah, exactly. That would be terrible. Well, those are insightful answers you've given. I mean, basically, you just told me you'd be overwhelmed. In other news, everything's going great in the Philippines. I'm happy. And so I'm just glad to do this podcast. So yeah, man, I love traveling. I love it very much. And now it's time to hear from someone else who loves traveling in an item we like to call Tales of a Trip, where people give us their 3 minutes of the greatest travel story of all time. Perhaps tell us a tale of the time you went and absolutely ransacked an Airbnb while you were staying in the Philippines. Perhaps tell a time of the most beautiful sunset you've ever had. All that sort of stuff. 3 minutes, your greatest travel story. Let's listen to one right now.
All right, guys, this is Hamo from the Winging It Travel podcast. Love your podcast. Here's my quick story. It's a bit of an old one. This is at the Laos and Thailand border. There's a river there. And when I got to the Laos side to get my exit stamp, I handed my passport over and this guy was absolutely going nuts at me. I had no idea. None the wiser. I haven't done anything wrong. Just queued up like everyone else. He didn't like it. Anyway, I told him where to go because I was like, well, I ain't got time for this. So in my ignorant, arrogant younger self, I popped on a boat across to Thailand, got to Thailand's side, and the guy there, a bit more professional, in a uniform, basically said, no, you can't come in. I said, oh, why not? He goes, well, you haven't got a stamp out of the country. I was like, oh, right. He goes, also, you haven't got a stamp in the country. I was like, that's the problem. No idea how I missed that. So he said, you've got to go back, get your stamps in, and then come back to me. So off I go, in a bit of a huff and a puff. And my mates, who I was with, it was about 6-7 of us traveling at the time, just said, hey, look, you might need this. And that was US dollars and Thai baht. So I stuffed that in my pocket, jumped on a boat, back across the river. And guess who's waiting for me? That same guy and 3 of his mates. And one of those is some army captain with a gun. Pointed me out in my England shirt as I come back across the river. I was like, oh shit, I'm in trouble here. And he said, yeah, you come this way. I was like, right, here we go. A little bit scared at this point, actually. I'm like, oh, my friends have all gone across the border and there's a bus waiting for us to go to Chiang Mai. So I got into the room for what seemed like just to get the admin done. And he said, sit down. Do you speak Laotian? I said, no, don't speak Laotian. There was snooker on the TV. Ron O'Sullivan was playing in the Crucible. And he said, you haven't got a stamp in your passport. Why not? I said, I don't know. I must have missed a sign, which is actually generally true. I still don't know to this day why I didn't get a stamp in. He said, your visa's here, but your stamp's not. So you need a visa to get out. So you need a stamp to get out of the country, and then you'll be fine to go. I was like, cool. But he said it's going to cost $70. I was like, what? $70? He goes, yeah. So now I'm not having that. He goes, well, if you don't have that, then you're going to stay in this room for forever. It's like, right, okay. So I sat there for 30 minutes trying to negotiate to and fro, tried everything, the silent treatment, angry, nice, bad cop, good cop, all the above. And it got to 30 minutes. I was like, I'm stuck here. What do I do? I said, okay, well, I've got no choice. What are the options? He goes, US dollar or Thai baht? I said, well, give me a Thai baht guesstimation. And gave me a Thai baht estimation. That was $7 cheaper. I said, yeah, I'll have that. Paid the money. And as soon as I paid the money, stamp in my passport, away you go. And lesson learnt there is, be calm under pressure, be careful of signs and follow the right signs, and don't get too angry. Cheers.
James Hammond from Winging It Travel Podcast, one of the best travel podcasts out there. Go and check it out. It's a great show. What I will say, Adam, and I think James is a great traveller, but if you're there in the Laotian border with Ronnie O'Sullivan playing snooker on the TV, I reckon I'm chilling. I'm spending a little bit more time in there. And I think as the time ticks away and you're sort of proving to them that you're comfortable, I think that price starts coming down.
But he's got places to be. James is a busy man. He's got places he wants to go. There's probably people waiting for him on the other side. He's in his England shirt. You would have been more patient, would you?
I just think I quite like watching Ronnie O'Sullivan play snooker. So I reckon you got at least 2 hours of being very comfortable in that Laotian office. And I just think that at a certain point of time, they're going to be like, is this guy having a good time? And you're like, yeah, go on the rocket. And they're going to be like, oh God, maybe let's just say $50 and call it a day.
So you're trying to put yourself in the mind of an army officer on the border of Thailand and Laos. I don't know if they give two shits, mate. Do you reckon the money went straight in the pocket?
Yeah, I think it was bribe money. But my general perspective in a situation like that is I'm just going to rejig the mentality, because they're like, this guy's trapped in a room with us until he pays us. I'm like, you guys are trapped in a room with me as well.
There's mind games going on.
Yeah, because all you've got, I'm ordering a stamp on eBay and saying, we'll see what credit case first. Will I get the stamp, or are you going to give it to me? You know?
Yeah, because the stamps on eBay are a darn sight cheaper than what you're trying to charge me. Let me just put myself in James's flip-flops for a second. I think I probably would have done what he did. I might have even folded at the $70 because I don't like going across borders and not being able to meet the criteria or provide documentation or anything like that. It's happened to me on a couple of occasions. There was one time actually when I was crossing from Russia into China, and bearing in mind I'd just spent a month in Russia, it wasn't I didn't have any problems along the way apart from the very first day, but that's a different story for a different day. They actually held up a bus that I was on for 45 minutes before we even got into the sort of no man's land in between Russia and China. The Russian authorities weren't happy with my passport, and I'm sure I've told that on a previous episode, but it was amazing. The whole bus was 60 of us on this bus, and they wouldn't let me through because they didn't believe that my British passport was real, even though I sort of thinking to myself, your counterparts at the other end in Moscow, they let me in the country with this. So
yeah, what did they suppose had maybe happened, that you'd checked in on a different passport and then acquired a sort of fake one?
No, because the stamp's in there. The entry stamp was in there.
Yeah, but you can buy one of those on eBay, mate. I'm starting to think that I'm on the Russian side.
No. I stood with them at one of their booth things, the desk, while they had 3 people looking at a computer screen, and they were genuinely Googling photos of British passports.
That's quite cool, isn't it?
I was like, look, it's that one. That one matches mine. It's the same. Well, that doesn't look like you. No, that's a different person.
Bad time for you for ChatGPT to hallucinate and make a bright pink sort of cosmic looking passport. This doesn't like what ChatGPT says at all, sir.
Yeah. Poor old James though. I don't envy him. I'm not surprised that he just forked out the money. Half an hour. I don't know if half an hour in that environment feels like a couple of days. You don't want to lose any time when you're doing exciting stuff.
If I'm one of those 6 other people he's traveling with, I'm going back with him in solidarity.
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
100%.
I like that about you. I like it a lot.
Because I'd be frustrated that I was missing the snooker as well. And I just hope there was a chance that the game was being shown on the other side.
Although, actually, to be fair to the Thai border control and the Laotian border control, I bet they love it when things like that happen. Because I'm not saying that they're the sorts of people that generally or often will kind of, they might welcome a bribe, why not? but when something happens when it's like a genuine error, do you know what I mean? Like he doesn't have an entry stamp. That's a real issue. So they say, well, I'm sorry, it's $70. I'm sorry, what do you want me to do? It's your fault.
Yeah, if I had a sovereign state, I would make the signage for the exit stamp very confusing indeed. I would put a labyrinth before the stamp and be like, okay, guys, time to get your exit stamp, or you can just get on the boat and chance your arm, but it might have to come back.
Yeah, do you reckon the England shirt actually has done him a disservice there? He's seen him, this white guy with his backpack on, he's wearing an England shirt, and they've looked him up and down and gone, $70.
Yeah, if you go and check out Winging It Travel Podcast on Instagram, you might notice that James Hammond, the host, doesn't particularly pass for Laotian. And I think that might have been a disservice to him as he tried to traverse the border.
But he has got some amazing stories. We do listen to his show on the regs. It is great. Go and check it out. It's slightly different format, lots of interviews and this sort of stuff with very interesting people. He's a great host. And yeah, we hope you go and check his stuff out as well.
There's even an episode way back when we first started podcasting where I'm in Scotland talking stories about riding my bike and travelling around the world. So that'd be exciting. Go and check that one out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I loved that episode, actually. It's long, wasn't it? Really long.
Yeah, good podcast, like the host. All right, well, thanks very much for sending it in. If you've got a great travel story, just 3 minutes, great travel story, it's www.tripologicpodcast.com/tales of a trip. Send it in to us. We can't wait to hear it. Mate, lots of exciting stuff going on, but right now we've got to go to the Lost and Found section for Patreon only. So if you don't pay for it, do pay for it, and then you might be able to hear it too. Happens after the theme music. Let's go there right now.
We'll see you there. Bye.
Bye.